The beacon filed its transmission at 3:14 station time, which is when nothing happens on a deep grid monitoring rotation, and you have already finished your third cup of coffee and started cataloging the reasons you accepted a posting on Kelevar 9. I nearly missed it. The auto flag came in quiet yellow, not red, which means the system considered it informational rather than urgent. Most yellow flags are equipment ghosts, relay nodes settling in their housings, old survey buoys finishing their autonomous drift cycles and checking in like elderly pensioners who cannot quite believe anyone is still listening. I usually log them and move on. This one had a header I had not seen before. ORVETH Memorial Compact, Article 14 Welfare Transmission. Originating Node, Cenotaph Beacon Kavath 7 Primary Steel Array. Addressed to Sorrel Successor State Secretariat, Archived Relay Address Orvith Null 4. Co-signatory Monitoring Receipt, Earth Deep Grid Station Kelevar 9. Transmission Type, Annual Welfare Filing Year 31 of Compact. I pulled the compact record. It took 11 minutes because the file lived in the archived and superseded treaty database, 3 layers deep, behind 2 authentication prompts that my clearance level barely satisfied. The Orvith Memorial Compact had been signed 31 years ago, at the close of the Sorrel Passage War, by 14 parties including Earth. Its purpose, per Article 1, was to ensure that war memorial cenotaphs on all signatory worlds received an annual welfare check from the Sorrel Successor State Secretariat, a confirmation that the dead were remembered, that the colonies still standing had what they needed, that no one had been quietly forgotten in the administrative shuffle after the fighting stopped. The Successor State Secretariat dissolved 29 years ago. Earth had never formally withdrawn from the compact. Nobody had issued a decommission order for Orvith Null 4. Our monitoring station had inherited the relay address from the original signatory registration, and per standing protocol for archived co-signatory addresses, had continued to receive traffic on it ever since, flagged yellow, logged, never escalated, because for 29 years nothing had come through. Until this morning, when Kavath 7 Cenotaph Beacon filed its 31st annual welfare transmission, addressed to a government that no longer existed, on a channel that turned out to run straight to my console. I read the transmission body. It was 4 pages. The first page was the formal welfare certification, confirmation that the Kavath 7 memorial steel was structurally sound, that the names on its panels had been verified against the original casualty registry, that the annual remembrance observance had been conducted per compact protocol. The second page was the colony's administrative status report, because Article 14 required one. I read it twice. The Kavath 7 colony had been on the Successor States Aid Distribution Network. When the Secretariat dissolved, the distribution network dissolved with it. The colony had submitted re-registration requests to the Successor State's successor state, the Orvith Provisional Authority, for 27 years. The Provisional Authority had no record of the colony's compact status. The colony had submitted documentation 6 times. The documentation had been received, acknowledged, and filed somewhere from which it had not emerged. The colony's population was 4,311. Their primary water reclamation array had been running on cannibalized components for 6 years. Their medical dispensary had not received a resupply since the Provisional Authority's last general distribution, 4 years ago. The 4th page was a note, in what I recognized as a non-standard addendum field that most automated filing systems ignore. Someone had typed it in by hand. It said, "We do not know if anyone still monitors this address. We file because the compact requires it, and because the people on this steel deserve to have their names confirmed. If this reaches anyone who can forward it to the appropriate authority, please do." I sat with that for a moment. Then I pulled Kavath 7's coordinates and checked our active patrol corridor assignments. The survey corvette Aldrin's Gate was running a routine frequency audit pass through corridor Orvith 7, which put her approximately 6 hours from Kavath 7's outer marker. I flagged her corridor assignment for review and opened a priority channel to her bridge. Her comms officer answered on the second ping, which told me she was not in a particularly busy part of the corridor. I gave her the short version: a memorial compact welfare transmission, annual filing, 29 years of no response, colony in genuine need, compact co-signatory address still active at our station. I told her the 4-page summary in about 90 seconds. There was a pause. "What's our mandate?" she asked. "Article 14, Welfare Response Provision," I said. "Co-signatory obligations remain in effect until formally withdrawn. We have not formally withdrawn." Another pause. "We're a frequency audit corvette. We have survey gear and a med kit." "You also have a hold full of standard corridor transit stores," I said, "and you're 6 hours out." She put me on hold for 4 minutes. When she came back, her captain was on the line, a steady voice, unhurried, the kind of officer who has learned that unhurried is faster. He asked 2 questions. I answered them. He said, diverting, and closed the channel. I drafted the formal compact response notification and sent it on Orvith 04 to the beacon's return address. I kept the language procedural. Co-signatory receipt confirmed. Article 14 welfare transmission logged. Response vessel Aldrin's Gate, Earth Survey Corvette, Corridor Orvith 7, estimated arrival 6 standard hours. Please confirm receipt. The confirmation came back in 40 minutes, which meant someone on Kavath 7 was monitoring the channel in real time, and had been for long enough to be sitting at the console when my transmission arrived. It was not an automated acknowledgement. It was a voice message which I had not expected, and the voice on it was not young. Female, careful, with the slight over-enunciation of someone speaking in a second language to an audience she was not sure would understand. "This is Governor Yevath Orm Sorrel, Kavath 7 Colonial Administration. We have received your response. We confirm receipt. We." A pause, the kind of pause that is not dead air, the kind where someone is doing arithmetic. "We were not certain the address was still active," she said. "We file each year because the compact requires it, and because my grandmother signed the compact and I promised her I would not stop filing until someone answered or told me to stop. No one has told me to stop. And now..." She stopped again. "The Aldrin's Gate," she said, as if reading the name back to confirm she had spelled it correctly in her notes. 6 hours. We will have the landing field cleared." She signed off with the compact's formal closing, a line of protocol language from Article 14 that I had only ever read in the archived file and never heard spoken aloud. It sounded, in her voice, less like a formality and more like the thing you say at the end of a very long wait when the wait has finally, without drama, ended. I logged the exchange, appended Aldrin's Gate's diversion to the corridor report, and drafted the escalation memo for station command. The memo recommended 3 things: a formal review of all archived compact co-signatory, addresses currently receiving yellow flag traffic at our monitoring stations, a resupply authorization for Kavath 7 through the General Mutual Aid provision pending compact status review, and a notation in the Orvith Memorial Compact file that Article 14 was apparently still in effect and being exercised. I also recommended, in the memo's final line, that Orvith 04 not be decommissioned. At 4:12 station time, I refiled the welfare transmission receipt into the active treaty database, 1 layer up from where it had been living. It took less than a minute. The system accepted it without comment. At 6:01, the Aldrin's Gate sent a brief corridor update. She was past the outer marker. The captain noted that the colony's landing field beacon was lit and had been lit, he suspected, for some time. I noted it in the log. Then I started on my 4th cup of coffee and thought about a grandmother who had signed a compact at the end of a war, and a granddaughter who had kept filing the paperwork for 31 years into an address she did not know was live, because the dead deserved to have their names confirmed, and because no one had told her to stop. No one had told us to stop either. I filed that thought in the same place I file most things that do not fit a standard category, which is to say I left it on the desk, where it would be there in the morning, waiting to be considered properly. The beacon would file again next year. I would be here,